Okay, if I have to sell an idea, I cheat, I lie, I will bribe, I will do anything.
I wore a condom on my soul, which is what you need to do a lot of the time in this business.
That's a great pitch for Durex. I think they should buy it. Prasoon, going to write the script? And we'll try our best not to bore you because with me,
By the way, guys, the only response we got when they took my name, there was no ooh. When they took Prasoon's name, there was no ooh. But when y'all took Shakun's name, everybody said woo.
Okay.
So Shakun,
First, let me introduce myself for why I'm here. I'm a filmmaker because of these two legendary filmmakers. Just to go back in time, when I first moved to Bombay, I had 3 directors on my list that I really, really wanted to work with. In advertising, it was Ram sir, Prasoon sir, and Prakash Verma. Prakash is not here. But these 3 filmmakers literally inspired me to become a filmmaker. And I got to work with Ram sir as his first AD. I was with him roughly for a year over different jobs. Prasoon sir, I worked in this company, but he was busy and he didn't think I was good enough to be his assistant. But I'm still hoping he'll give me a chance one day. So thank you so much for being here. You've played this game and you've maintained gold standards of advertising over the decades that you worked. And I want to know from both of you, what's the one thing that you think has changed in advertising and what's the one thing that hasn't?
sir, you go. No, sir, go.
Pehle aap.
You know, Ram is my intellectual brother, and I'm
Meaning
hoping.
by saying so,
And I'm hoping.
I'm damn. Now I have to sound intelligent.
Whenever there's a tough question, I'm hoping it goes to Ram. And so people were, at that point in time, more gutsy. They could take decisions, they were decisive. And now, over the years, in every business, there is so much of hierarchy that has come in that, and people are living and thinking and working only in quarters. So nobody's thinking of brand building that'll work over 2 years, 3 years. And when that happens, it starts reflecting in the work, okay? So while I don't want to say that the work is poorer than it was, but maybe it is. Okay.
And what's the one thing that hasn't changed?
The one thing that hasn't changed is the drive of the creative guys, you know, because it is so tough. I've been a writer before I became a director. It is so tough to see your idea through. Everybody gets fantastic ideas, but somehow or the other, there are too many roadblocks, and they were there then also, they're there today also. That drive of youngsters to keep at it, you know, to see an idea shot down, to be able to argue first, okay, and then see it shot down, and yet come up with another brilliant one. That hasn't changed, and thankfully.
Hi, everybody. First, I'm just happy to be here, also especially with Prasoon and Shakun. Filmmakers, I think, greater than myself, probably with less failures. And I think what I'm remembered for is the good work, which is possibly about 6 ads. But there are 600 ads. And I think the thing that has changed, the 600 ads that are not good, the thing that has changed is that that creative failure, I wasn't blamed for, and nor am I remembered by. I think today, if you are in the creative business, you're blamed for failure. And I think filmmakers need to be allowed failure. And I was allowed a lot of bad work. So what you remember is really the good work. And also, I think the thing that perhaps has changed is that we have less what I call as rogue elephants. Okay, there are these creative directors that I worked with, and Prasoon was one of them. When they were in heat, when they were must, okay, there's a certain smell that you get from an elephant when he's must or she's must. And that must feeling when you know that this creative director is a rogue elephant that is going to go through clients and everything for your sake and for their sake. I think what we are missing today are rogue elephants. So I stood on the sort of, not stood on, but I caught on to the tail of those rogue elephants. And then, like I said, I can smell this person is going to make sure that I do great work. And so I'm here because of actually all those people, including Prasoon, who was at a certain point a creative director and a writer for some of the ads that I did. So I'm here thanks to, these rogue elephants. What hasn't changed? We haven't changed. We are still young. We are hungry. And we are not going to let you guys out there get the work that you want because we are still doing it.
But they're anyway going on Instagram. And that's another thing. I feel like with advertising has come a long way, right? We are more personally like curating ads, influencers are making ads. And I wanted to know one thing, from an engagement point of view, from an audience's point of view, do you think the audiences has changed and how they react to ads have changed? And has that changed your language and your style?
So I keep saying that we're in the business of feelings. Okay, so about 4 years ago, I decided I'd take a course in the Natya Shastra. Prasoon doesn't need to do it because he knows it, okay? I had to learn it. And so I went to the Bombay University. I took a course on Indian aesthetics. Yes, there is such a thing called Indian aesthetics. And I learned about the Navaras, etc. And then I'm in the business of feelings. So when I'm in advertising, there are three things that you actually talk about. One is, what do you want to say? The other is, who do you want to say to? But I think the third thing, which is really the thing that we're all interested in, whether you're creating a reel or you're creating an ad, which is what is the feeling that you're going to be left behind when the person sees that work. When we normally show an ad in a conference room, so what happens is कि हमने ad client को दिखाया, then there are 30 more people who come into the conference room, okay? And they're told, कैसे लगी ad? My job is to predict that expression. Your job as anybody who's creating whatever content is to predict that expression when they see that content, be it advertising, feature film, series, or Instagram reel. So that's what, I'm in the business of feelings.
Sawal kya tha?
So, do you think the audiences have changed, and has that made you change your style and how you engage with the
No,
audiences?
I think audience is constantly going to change. Everybody is evolving. Everybody is getting more exposure to things around. And audience is always a constant movement. And it is our job to try and understand where the audience is at this point in time and what is it. Because I think we are not in the telling business. We are in the business of listening. How will you receive it? That is the task. It's not important as to how I say it, because why it is not important is because it has to be defined by how I think you will receive it. And if you are going to receive it like this, then I'm going to craft it like this. So audience is always a constant movement. It will change, and it has changed, and it'll continue to change.
And I think I'm only as good as you say I am. So I'm not good or bad or mediocre. If you like the work, I'm good. If you don't like the work, then therefore you are so important that I have to make sure that I get you to receive it, and I have to craft it so that you do tell me that I'm good.
Yeah.
So, talking about the constantly evolving audience and us trying to learn where they are and trying to communicate, what ad comes to your mind in the last, year that you saw that you were like, this speaks to the audience today, and I learned something from it, not just from marketing point of view, but from a filmmaking, how it spoke to the audience? Like, anything that comes to your mind?
It's a slightly unfair question because, unlike the good old days of just Doordarshan, where you got to see everybody's work, now there's so many channels, and the work is so spread that actually, if I pick somebody, it should not mean that the others weren't brilliant enough, okay? Because typically the stuff that we are watching has no ads on it, okay? And so at this point in time, I feel, just because I was on the jury of Cannes this year, I know those ads much better than I know what my own country is doing,
But no, I saw the Jindal ad. I think Ayappa made it, and I thought that was crafted beautifully. It's a montage film, and that's one of the most difficult things to do.
Sarma ki dulhin jo byah ke aayi sang two seater sofa.
Prasoon sir, why don't you take us through the journey of this ad from brief, your ideation, production, all of that?
So I have a fantastic relationship with this client. So typically they just say, remember you have to do a 60-year ad. That's the brief because they know we've been working together for 25 years now, maybe 30. So I knew I had to write something for 60 years. And how this idea started in my head is, firstly, nothing that we do is original. It is all from observation, you observe something here, you observe something here, and you connect something in your head. That connection may be original, okay? And so when I was a kid, I was told, and that sofa is still there in my family, there was a two-seater sofa, and that's why I put a two-seater sofa here. And I was told that my father had bought it when the Brits were going for 40 rupees. Okay, and it's very basic. It's basic like this only. For 40 rupees, it was not just the sofa, it was a side stool and everything came for 40 rupees. So anyway, as I was growing up, it was always in the house. And once, the upholstery was being changed. And when the upholstery guy came, and you know what they do? They take one nail out carefully and then they get a grip and then they pull. When they pull, all the other nails come out and some don't. So he was doing that, and then I saw underneath there were nails with so this was a green tapestry. What was underneath was, there were some nails with a rust thing, and when I saw that, I said, oh fuck, I remember this. I was maybe 7 or 8 at that point in time. Now seeing that, I remembered that there was that color on it, and in that moment I thought, this sofa could also be having something, some upholstery that Brit guy must have put, okay? And so the sofa has seen life from that Brit guy to my father to when I was 7 and now I'm 14. This thought just stayed in my head. I hadn't converted it into a story at that point in time. And then later on, once my mom told me that it's, this is such a silly system, this people give dowries and all that. The neighbor, in their family, there was a wedding and one sofa came in their dowry. And then they already had a sofa in the house, okay? And there was no space. So they quickly waited for the daughter to get married, reupholstered it, and sent it to that daughter's dowry. And I thought, wow, that's fantastic. So that also stayed with me. And so when I was writing this, I said, what if I have to write for 60 years, what if I write what life has sofa observed, okay? It would have observed not just architectural changes and object changes and the kind of, say, the computer that was there in 1998, okay, and the cars that were there. It would have also seen a most welcome change in husband-wife relationships, okay? And so I tried to put that in there, that when she first comes, she is doing all house chores, and the husband is actually, he is like a slave to his father. Wo father ke pair daba raha hai. He has no time for his wife. And then slowly, when the husband becomes a collector, by that time, so that would be about 70s in this, by the time the wife has come into her own, she has a certain status, okay? When she sits, all the mohallaga kids come to watch that TV, in her house. Till when you come to the end, it's a more equitable relationship where when her husband's working and she comes and ruffles his hair, he knows it is time to go and make coffee for her, okay? So I tried to put all this into the story. And then I said, shit, it's far too long. So I never presented it to the client. I presented something else. And they said, wow, this is brilliant. But here, the 60 years is coming only as a super in the end. Is there a way that 60 years can be part of the story? I said, well, there was, but I think it is like a 70-second film. That's why I didn't present it to you. And they said, no, just present it, no. So I was on their boardroom, and on that teak table, I played tabla and I narrated the whole 70-seconder.
But you had this, you'd written the words to it.
Yeah, yeah.
You had the words to
Yeah,
it.
I had the words
Oh,
to it.
amazing. And so you just,
Yeah, I just played to it.
I love it.
Okay. So I narrated to them.
This is the reason that I'm envious of Prasoon, because he can sing, he can write, he can direct, he can act. So that's something which neither Shakun nor me have that kind of talent. So
He's rejected me as an actor, and as a voiceover artist too. It's his favorite pastime to just keep rejecting me. So anyway,
that story some other day.
In fact, but it's such an incredible client. They heard it and they said, we have to make this film. We do not become 60 years for a brand too many times in life. If we don't do it now, then when? Okay. And so I made this film. By the time I finished it, it wasn't a 70-seconder, it became an 80-seconder. But they didn't bat an eyelid. And in fact, they never asked me for a shorter cut. They said, that's the film. We'll run it lesser. So you have great clients still. So don't lose hope. Just have faith in what you do. And
woo! So now, the next one I want to play is your Kindle ad. And I know everybody in this room has also seen the Happy Dent ad, which was probably the best thing that had come on TV for the longest time. I remember watching it again and again. I love that ad. But I know Ram is very shy to talk about it because he's like, people just keep talking about it. And there's enough YouTube videos on that ad, so you can watch that later.
It's all downhill after that.
Yes, so the one we're going to play is Ram's Kindle ad that his process is what I took away. I wouldn't even say I took away from him. I stole his process when I went into filmmaking. I learned how process is as important as the storytelling for Ram. There's so many little Easter eggs. And I think one of the greatest things, and I would obviously want to know your process, one of the greatest things for both the ads and all your work is their story within stories. And I think they're Easter eggs. When you watch it the second time, you can see the first frame when he's crossing, there's a mother's portrait in the back with the mala. The text is about mother and son. And eventually when it lands, it all comes together. And I know, same with the sofa, right? You had these stories within stories that you want to tell. And I think that's how, for me, you differentiate just somebody doing a commission job and then filmmakers trying to make or tell stories. And I think that just it just comes from within. When you're a storyteller, you want to tell a story. It's not something that's on the page. It's what you want to find within yourself that you can put into the story. And I think that's one of the greatest things I've seen both of you do. But please take us through your process for this one.
So this happened at a time when 5 of the feature films that I was meant to be doing one after the other didn't happen. And the last one was a feature film that I was meant to do for Aayi, which then became a series later. And literally 3 weeks before the shoot, we had got our cast. There was Ronit Roy, there was Pankaj Tripathi, everybody was in it. There was a big actress attached. And on September 13th that year, I was told that we are scrapping the film. And I started crying. And then I called up 40 or 50 people who were in my team and saying, sorry guys, we can't go ahead with the shoot. And they, of course, were great, and so I started crying even more. And they said, no, sir, don't worry, we'll bring it back, we'll do it, etc. And I couldn't take it, because it had been so many years since I'd been wanting to make a feature, and this also didn't happen. Amita over here, my co-producer and wife, has been part of that journey, so like a big clap to her for, and responsible for everything that I do. So I gave myself a schedule. I schedule my life. And so I gave myself a schedule which said, Ram, you're going to cry till 12 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And so I cried till 12. That was Sunday, the 14th.
That's so Ram scheduling his crying time. Because my only learning from Ram was when we are on set, he knows the watch and what time it is without looking at it. He's like, that is shot number 17. It should have been over 3 minutes ago. And so I know Ram has scheduled his crying time.
So I scheduled that crying time. And then Raj Deepak Das, who's the person responsible for this, I don't take any credit at all. He was just like, sort of become creative head of Leo Burnett. And he had sent me the script a couple of weeks ago, and I had said, Raj, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And that day, I said to myself, Ram, you're going to stop moping. This is the mountain that you chose to climb. So if this is the mountain, then there is going to be landslides and you'll get frostbite. Now don't complain, start climbing it again. And so, I sort of, what I call as I wore a condom on my soul, which is what you need to do a lot of the time in this business. Wear a condom on your soul. And so
That's a great pitch for Durex. I think they should buy it. Prasoon, going to write the script. I see great imagery there.
So that morning I happened to hear a music track by Tajdar, he did the music for this. And so I called up Raj and I said, is that ad yet, sort of, is it something that I can pitch for? And he said, of course. And I just played him the music. I met him that day on Sunday. And then as a separate aside, by Wednesday, I met 20th Century Fox, and that's how Neerja happened, because Arya didn't happen as a film. So there is a plan out there that the universe has, So, so this is the story of Kindle. I'm going to take another couple of minutes so I then spoke to Raj, and he's one of the most inspiring people. And there was obviously no money, and there's never money, right? Then we went and met the client, and we told the client, so I didn't tell him about the mother. I didn't tell him the mother is dead. Dead mother? He would have said, my gosh, what's wrong with you? This ad is about a dead mother. There's no way. We said, look, it's a demo film. That's it. It's just a demo film. There's a man is reading. He can read in the bright light. He can read at night. Uska battery bhi charge kar sakta hai. वो जहाँ भी purchase कर सकता है. ये full demo film है. तो उसको ऐसे meaning थोड़ा सा सच झूठ बोल के we basically went out there and we made it. Poonam Vahi is here. She was my EP on the job, and Manoj was my producer. So, this is where I invented my system, actually, which is called System 360, because I then shot it with 2.4 cameras. I did it in real time. I did it so that it feels a little more like documentary. It feels like it's actually happening without losing the cinema. And I also wanted to establish something called an Indian eye and an Indian aesthetic. So I don't like a Western way of, Henry Cartier-Bresson. They're great, but I want to do Raghuveer Singh. So I want to do things which is a little more chaotic. So I started working on all of this. And while doing that, the other thing which I always put into my ad is God. I always put in God, okay? So I always put in philosophy, I put in spirituality, even in Happy Dent, or whatever Adidas, you'll find that I always put Sanskrit
Happy Dent
shloka.
mein kidhar hai?
That had, sorry? What?
God.
No, so it says, Tera man roshan, tera tan roshan. So as soon as you begin to evoke and elevate your advertising, I think it sort of reverberates with us in India, So I put in all of this, and it's thanks to Raj that we got through this. And I don't use lights anymore when I work in series or feature films. And also when I was shooting it, like I got bitten, and I thought it was a snake bite, which I, sort of because we were shooting in some mangrove forest, and and I like to stay at good hotels because I like to look after my crew. Amita and me keep saying we don't organize our shoots, we host our shoots. And so this hotel was also in some mangrove, beautiful hotel. Never stay in an eco hotel, okay, which has open bathrooms. So this snake basically bit me, and I ignored it, or it was a scorpion, or I don't know what it was. It may have been a spider. And my arm like swelled up during the shoot, and then 2 days later, I finished the shoot because I ignored, and obviously Amita was on the phone saying, my gosh, what's happening? And they then made plans, Poonam and everybody, to airlift me out of Sri Lanka, which is where this was shot. So,
को इतना बजट नहीं मिलने वाला इधर किसी को भी तो ये मतलब बजट के हिसाब से सांप से कटवाना है मतलब हॉस्पिटल के पास है तो ठीक है
I know that because I said I'm not going into that hospital, okay, because we're in the middle of some village in Sri Lanka, and I said I'm not going to go there and get snake venom injection. So, and I thought airlift means like, you know how they put a harness and then you're tied and that helicopter will go and you know, you're like, you know, tied. I didn't know you have to be inside. I thought they'll airlift me, okay? So I was in the hotel then for 7 days after the shoot. And literally obviously after we presented to the client, and this is Swanand who wrote the lyrics and the music, which we thought about only while we were editing. And I finished the edit and I told Raj, yaar, maza nahi aa raha yaar, kuch end mein kuch maza nahi aaya. And then Swanand came in and wrote this. So it was a process where, again, that rogue elephant was looking at the end result, and that rogue elephant was Raj, and so I thank him for this. So that's basically it. But I asked him, I said, Raj, why did you give this to me? You know, and this morning I had a call with another agency. Thank God I'm yet doing advertising. I love it. And this other agency, I said, why are you asking me? And they said, Ram, tu you know, kuch naya kuch try karega, tu experiment karega. So I said, okay, chalo, that's great here. So this was Kindle. I'm not going to take more time. Thank you.
No, wonderful. I think one of the things that I learned by working with other filmmakers is that there's a film that the director sees, and then there's a film that the director finds. And if you are making exactly what you saw, there's no growth, there's no magic, there's no evolution. And I think from both your work, and now that you even explained the process of Kindle, yes, you saw a film and there was a script, but you also found a new film.
Yeah, I think what happens is, the more that you do the work, you begin to know that you know, and you want to get to a position where you don't know, because that's really then you're scared. And over time, I think the biggest problem with me is that I've begun to get to know what I'm doing, and that's really my worst work. When I don't know is when I'm happier, because then I'm in a state of creative anxiety.
Yeah. Ram, one day we definitely want to read a book or an article about Condom of the Soul. So I am going to come back to that. So we'll take 1 minute, quick, rapid fire. Source of inspiration.
Oh gosh. E.M. Foster says only connect, which is what Prasoon was saying, which is that, what is the definition of an idea? An idea is when you put two things and combine them and make them new. And so my source of inspiration is I'm constantly borrowing from everybody and everything, from movies, from books. More I see, the more I learn, the more I read, the more I borrow, and the more a chore I am.
Source of inspiration for you, sir?
Life around. I take great pride in my observation. Wherever I am, I'm studying how people sit, how they talk, what is their relationship, how that mother and daughter, how do they behave with each other, how does that, and everything is source material for you. My phone from 1995 till today, it's always on silent. And it's on silent because when I'm driving in the car, I do not want to take anybody's call. Because that time I'm seeing there is 360, screens all around you. You're seeing what life is. And if you appreciate it, if you enjoy it, it'll seep into your
This is
work.
why I'm envious of Prasoon, because I'm always on Zoom calls in the car.
2 tips or tricks that you've used that you think filmmakers can use. I know I learned one trick from you. Actually, my production designer, Abid, and also my DOP who worked with you, David, they told me that when Prasoon doesn't like something and he's not ready for the scene, he generally tells the client, यार वो paint मैं थोड़ा बदलना चाहता हूँ, वो color अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है. And you tell Abid to just do one more coat and you take that extra half an hour to think about what you want to do. Is that something you've done before?
Yeah, I do that very often. If I have a set or even a location, I like spending some time with it. And if everything is ready, I am actually not ready because I know how I want the film. I know precisely everything. Yet there are things that I feel I do not know because I haven't. There is a tactile feel to a chair. If it is my house, I would sit differently in that chair. If I'm a guest in your house, I would sit differently in that chair. And so what I like doing is, if everybody seems ready, I say, yeah, wo galat hai. Usko paint karo wapas. And so the onus of delay is put on somebody else, and then I go and sit in the chair if the actor is supposed to sit in the chair. I'll go lie down where it is. You know, I'm looking at that thing. But basically, I'm getting a feel of that space because then I know that if the actor is not giving me that, I know precisely what to correct because I've experienced that.
I did borrow this, and what I generally do again for young filmmakers here is before a big scene, I plan the big scene in my schedule after a day off. Then on the day off, I go to location and I just sit. And I just try to take in the environment. And then I like to just feel what would happen in reality and then find my camera around it. Tricks that you've used.
Well, you know, it's easy to sit here. It's not easy to sit here because we're all introverted people and this is tough to be extroverted. But it's messy, guys. It's very, very messy. Creativity is very messy. It's full of egos, it's full of sensitivities, it's full of sleepless nights. And I think if you can do just basically two things. One is, I think as a job, inspire. That's my job. My job is to inspire my team. I'm not here for any other reason because it's tough. The working hours are tough. There's a lot of things that go wrong. So a lot of the time now I'm finding out, and sometimes I inspire through impatience, force. Sometimes I inspire through humor. It depends on how you want to inspire. And the other is, I think, have a vision. If you don't have a vision, you can't pass it on. You have 200 people who are here who are asking you, what do you want? If you're not clear, then you're in trouble. So these two things, inspire and have a vision.
One thing that I want to tell you, because I work with Ram, and that's the only time when on a film set I felt he cared for me beyond just being a first AD on set. Because I'll tell you, I don't know if you remember this, I had a cold. We finished a shoot, so your shoot is done, it's wrapped, and I go home, and that night or next morning, your driver came with a steamer. And he said, Ram sir has sent this for you so you can, feel better. Yeah. And I think after that ad, generally when you call a first AD takes about a week off to do all the prep and the shoot and all of that. But after that, every time I got a call from Ram, I would take 2 or 3 weeks off to work for him because I know he cared. And it felt special,
Thank you. I just had to make sure that Shakun, said yes to me when I asked him again to work with me. It was purely mercenary. It was purely out of creative greed.
Also, what's really funny is before that, I did not know steamers exist. I thought कि आपको गरम पानी करके ऐसे करना पड़ेगा. So when a steamer came, I was like, this guy is resourceful, So I have to work for him. But I think that's a great advice for all you filmmakers here. I think what happens when you're starting out, you feel like you are the boss and everyone else should listen to you. Whereas what I learned from Ram is you are making everyone feel like that they have ownership, accountability, and they own this as much as you own it. And I think I've always felt that on your films.
Yeah, hello, sir. So my question is, what influences what? I mean, I consider both advertising and films like coming from the same mother stories. But there has been this transition. Our films and the characters, they have become more and more like, it looks like getting inspired from advertising world. And our ads, because they have become more slow-paced, they're more like emotions-oriented. They are becoming more like films. So my question is, what is influencing what? At what extent?
Both are influencing each other, and influences are good. We should not fight influences. This is life. When we say, tradition is not a pinpoint. Tradition did not stop at one point in time. It's an evolving thing. So the culture of today, you would see it 50 years from now with great nostalgia. Ki kya baat thi yaar uski. Okay, so be open to things that are happening around you. There is nothing wrong with that.
No, I think eventually we're just wanting to be part of cultural conversation, right? मेरा जो ad जो है ना hit होना चाहिए. मेरी जो film जो है ना series जो है hit होनी चाहिए. So when you become part of cultural conversation, what we in advertising used to call water cooler conversation, कि भाई लोग आपके ad के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, तो ad के लिए बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, ट्रेन में देख रहे हैं आपकी ad, अरे ये तो बहुत बड़ी बात है. So I think what we're really trying to do is whatever affects culture, we are part of that popular culture. So
I'm Nupur, I'm a copywriter. I wanted to ask you all that I'm starting out and I wanted to know that when you guys were starting out, what was your process like? So basically the word around the office is तुम insight पकड़ो और जितना easy तुम idea बताओगे उतना तुम्हारा idea easily execute हो सकता है. तो I mean at this point I'm struggling with coming like ideas to ho jata hai, but execute approval and stuff like that. So what was your process like, and if is there any tip or anything that can help me?
You know, when you write with passion, firstly, be honest to the idea, okay? So don't put in things that you wanted to do. Just ask whether this idea needs that. Once you've been honest and you're convinced this is mind-blowing, then I have done this, I do this till date, I cheat, okay? If I have to sell an idea, I cheat, I lie, I will bribe, I will do anything, okay? To see a good idea through. So if you have to lie, lie. You know, if the guy is not understanding your idea, if you have to bullshit, bullshit. Do whatever, because finally when an idea wins, all your sins would be pardoned. Everybody would like to be part of that victory.
Hi everyone, Prasoon sir, you've been in the industry for like what, close to 3 decades now, right?
No, just 5 years. Just 5 years.
Do I have to declare that publicly?
No. This is followed with a question. Like in earlier days, advertising was, apart from driving and generating and driving sales, it was always also about telling the brand story, right? It's not like, I don't see that anymore. I'm a copywriter and I've been working for 11 years now. So I also see that coming down, right? So what's your take on that, and how do you keep up with that?
I tell you what, whoever tells you that the ad needs to be shorter because of attention span is shorter, ask him to shut up. If he tells you ad needs to be shorter because it is expensive, yes, listen to him. That is true, okay? You know, if your ad has a hook in it, which has caught people's attention, then how does it matter?
Right.
Then the guy would continue to see it. So which means you have to have in your storytelling a hook which is a constant hook, which keeps my audience locked in. If the audience is locked in, then the duration is immaterial. They can be locked in for, you saw Ram's ad, which was what, 90 seconds? I was locked in for 90 seconds, okay? It did not matter. If the story is dragging, yes, you lose people's attention. So the blame for that cannot be passed on to the audience that they have a short attention span. The blame needs to come to us. I am not being able to hold their attention. And if you work on that, then push it through.
Yeah. But so talking about that, like you've done so much work, but my personal favorite, until today I quote it to every person that I meet, Pakde Rehna Chhodna Nahi. It's a very short, very sweet ad, but it has remained. Like I aspire to create such work where, it's remembered for decades to come, right?
Thank you. Well, it was my first Cannes winner, India's first Cannes winner for Ericsson mobile phones, One Black Coffee. Now, when that film had come to me, they'd actually sent me 3 scripts. And I said, I don't want to make it. I was right at the beginning of my career. It was possibly my 3rd film or 4th film. I said, no, I don't want to do it. Okay? And they said, why? I said, because its strategy bilkul galat hai. Because tumne 3 films banayi hain. One is about the strongest one is about the one with one-hand operation. Okay? And the 3rd one was about smallest one. I said, on strongest one, Ram has already made a fantastic film for Motorola. Okay? So he has already occupied that territory. Don't go there. On one-hand operation, people haven't experienced the phone. It is 1996. So they haven't experienced the cumbersomeness of pulling out a phone and then pulling out an aerial. They are quite happy that it doesn't come with that cord. Okay? So it's immaterial. You can talk about it after 4 years when the guy gets onto his 2nd phone. And your smallest one is the correct strategy because it would be fabulous to make a small phone, to sell a small phone. But I don't like your script because your script has, the script was something, on on a fashion show, bikini fashion show. There's a sound of phone ring coming, and then the girl pulls it out of her, stuff, and I said, well, that's not a film I would like to direct. That's a film I would like to attend. Okay. So that's a shoot. It's not important as to what I wrote. The important thing is I questioned who wrote this strategy. There is a fault in this strategy. Okay. And that is when I wrote Ericsson Mobile.